Thank you. Thank you very much. Behind me stands a wall that encircles the free sectors of this city, part of a vast system of barriers that divides the entire continent of Europe. From the Baltic south, those barriers cut across Germany in a gash of barbed wire, concrete, dog runs, and guard towers. Farther south, there may be no visible, no obvious wall, but there remain armed guards and checkpoints all the same. Yet it is here in Berlin where the wall emerges most clearly. Here, cutting across your city, where the news photo and the television screen have imprinted this brutal division of a continent upon the mind of the world. Standing before the Brandenburg Gate, every man is a German, separated from his fellow men. General Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
On a clear midnight in November, everyone climbed the wall. They shot fireworks, opened champagne, embraced, kissed. Not a single gunshot, not a single Soviet tank. But the wall was never supposed to fall. A clerical error of paperwork, a misstatement on the news, and East Germans drove their Trabants and Wartburgs, advancing into verboten security zones and checkpoints, asking all the way, "Am I dreaming?" Before the wall's construction in 1961, 3.5 million East Germans fled Soviet-controlled GDR, traveling first to East Berlin, crossing into French, British, and U.S.-controlled West Berlin, and from there, escaping to West Berlin by plane or train to the Federal Republic of Germany, the BRD. On the night of August 12th, East German soldiers strung 30 miles of barbed wire through the center of Berlin. On August 15th, the barbed wire was replaced with concrete. The completed wall was a combination of watchtowers, electrified fence, vehicle stopping steel stakes, barbed wire, bunkers, dogs, border patrols, and ditches. The inside of the wall was known as the Death Strip. Probably the most insidious part of the wall was not its construction, but its continued maintenance. It was not Soviet soldiers who manned the checkpoints or kept watch in the towers, but the German people themselves, who shot at their own countrymen, their own brothers and sisters. Modernism was not only a period of renewed art and exploration, but also one of nation-building, global commerce, a shrinking and speeding up of the world, a period of empire and fascism, which often relied upon colonial structures of exploitation. The British Empire, for example, expanded by more than 10 million square miles between 1815 and 1915. adding an additional 400 million people, encompassing a quarter of the global population, the largest empire in the world. Historians estimate approximately 25% of the Earth's landmass was controlled by Britain. It was the empire the sun never sat upon. Colonialism was not without its critics. Joseph Conrad published his novella Heart of Darkness in 1899. The narrator Charles Marlowe sits upon a riverboat on the Thames and tells his shipmates a story of colonial madness and futility. One of my favorite scenes details the attempt to put out a storage shed fire, specifically a shed that stores worthless junk. One evening, a grass shed full of calico, cotton prints, beads, and I don't know what else, burst into a blaze so suddenly that you would have thought the earth had opened to let an avenging fire consume all that trash. The stout man with mustaches came tearing down into the river, a tin pail in his hand, dipped about a quart of water, and tore back again. I noticed there was a hole in the bottom of his pail. It had been hopeless from the very first. After World War II, colonies across the globe began to collapse, often violently. For example, August 14th, 1947, Pakistan gained independence, and India the following day. The partition between British India and Pakistan resulted in the displacement of 12 million people, friends, family, neighbors, Muslim and Hindu, who lived side by side, coexisted in peace, brutally attacked each other in massacres, arson, forced conversions, abductions, rape, disfigurement, and dismemberment. That is, arms and legs were removed. As the remaining British officers left, they traversed streets filled with dead bodies, 50-mile lines of refugees fleeing cities on fire, men nailed to tram lines with small holes drilled into their skulls so that they would bleed out as slowly as possible. Another border line also drawn by the British and separated by religious lines, this time Catholic versus Protestant. Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland erupted in what's termed as the Troubles. On January 30th, 1972, known as Bloody Sunday, the British Army opened fire on unarmed civilians, killing 13. The Irish Republic Army, the IRA, deemed more a terrorist organization than an actual government-sponsored military, carried out 1,300 bombings in retaliation. Much of the violence took place in Belfast, and Karen Carson describes in his poem titled Belfast Confetti.
Belfast Confetti. Suddenly, as the riot squad moved in, it was raining exclamation marks, nuts, bolts, nails, car keys, a fount of broken type, and the explosion itself an asterisk on the map. This hyphenated line, a burst of rapid fire. I was trying to complete a sentence in my head, but it kept stuttering, all the alleyways and side streets blocked with stops and colons. I know this labyrinth so well. Balaclava, Raglan, Inkerman, Odessa Street. Why can't I escape? Every move is punctuated. Crimea Street, dead end again. A Saracen, Kremlin 2, mesh, Macrolon face shields, walkie-talkies. What is my name? Where am I coming from? Where am I going? A fusillade of question marks.
The division of Germany, controlled by France, Britain, the US, and the Soviet Union, was typical modernist thinking, typical colonialism, a subjugation of people. Except, instead of colonialism for economic gain, The Allied forces instituted a form of colonialism simply to erase national identity altogether. We even changed the country's name. They could no longer call themselves Deutschland, the land of the Dutch, but instead they were forced into the anglicized Germany. What makes the German state reunification remarkable, however, is not that the wall came down. That moment was probably inevitable, but that the wall's fall was peaceful, postmodern disruption of colonialism without bloodshed.